is setting the mood in the markets right now? Because if you look at European futures, they look a bit negative. The oil price is a little higher. But US futures, despite the Oracle numbers overnight, actually US futures looking pretty buoyant. So what's the mood?
Yeah, the price action in Asia was very impressive. You need to put the US futures in context of the sell-off that we saw yesterday. But, you know, we had a US session where tech stocks got hurt. And then we had the US-Iran flare-up. The Asia session started very negatively. It looked like it was going to be quite a bleak day. We saw precious metals break lower. We saw Hong Kong stocks break lower. We saw, you know, Korean stocks trading very heavily. It looked like a really negative day. And, you know, in the second half of the kind of Asia session, we really improved quite a bit. Now, I know things are generally trading a little bit negative, but I find that impressive given that the US-Iran conflict has probably seen the largest amount of strikes for a number of weeks. So it's the most tense moment. And given that the tech news flow has been a little bit more negative with the expenses out of Oracle, with the fact that the SpaceX IPO is withdrawing liquidity from the system. So I actually think the price action is quite impressive in the short term, but I'm not sure that the pain of the sell-off we've seen in the last week or so is quite over yet. I think we have a pop in stock markets after the SpaceX IPO, but I think we have to get through that first.
Mark, I am definitely going to watch Christine Lagarde at the press conference a little bit later on today. I'm assuming you will be too.
Guy, you know that I absolutely will not be. Look, I always think ECB is a little bit anticlimactic, and I'm not expecting any major surprise today. I think, you know, I do think it's funny that the ECB are obviously going to be the first to hike, and everyone wonders whether they've got the least inflation problem of some of the major central banks out there. But I'm not expecting the ECB to provide much fireworks, and I think we'll move beyond it quite quickly. I am much more concerned about the US PPI figure today. I know CPI figure yesterday was a bit mixed, but I think PPI is where we'll see a headline number which is really going to upset people again.
Yes. So the headline number could upset people on the PPI story. What is that going to do to inflation expectations in the States, to Fed expectations in the States? Because given all the hype and the drama, the market wasn't enormously shaken by the CPI print yesterday.
No, they took it very well, but I think people have started to realize that the number is probably looking less good for stocks, I think, on what it means for the consumer. And I think, again, we're going to see this in a really high PPI number today, that the idea that, hey, that maybe margins are getting squeezed for US stocks. So I think that the inflation dynamic is still pretty negative for the stock market. I think that people think the disinflationary trend in shelter has largely run its course. And the fact is we've still got this supply shock from the Middle East not resolved. So we've still got a worsening inflationary outlook. We don't know how much worse, but we do know it's continuing to deteriorate. So I think inflation is going to continue to be a negative dynamic. And in the very short term, I think we might get another pop-up in yields to squeeze the stock market lower.
Adam, I wanted to get your take here on the state of the AI trade, because the fact that we've seen some weakness, recently in this tech trade, whether it's chips, whether it's equipment makers, maybe some of the cybersecurity names. But Adam, the way that I look at it is after that parabolic run over the last month and a half, 2 months, maybe it was warranted at this point?
Yeah, I would say it's still healthy. You know, it's always difficult to accept that when you have such a pullback. We've had the last couple trading sessions, but the reality is it did run a little bit too far too fast, and it's healthy to see markets not get fully ahead of themselves. I think over this kind of phase of trying to figure out the winners and losers in the AI trade, the markets continue to do that. I go back to, Oracle was a great sign of how the market could differentiate that, because it ran up really fast on a lot of hopes and dreams, and then it gave it all back as the market really realized what it was going to take for them to fulfill the promises they made. And then conversely, obviously Alphabet or Google has had a tremendous run and sustained it because their model, their vertical integrated model, is more sustainable and more robust. So yeah, I think it's healthy to see the market kind of digest it this way.
Yeah, we'll get some more clarity on those results after the close today from Oracle. But we've seen some pullbacks here. Apple at the kickoff of their Worldwide Developers Conference, maybe historically that happens, the buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. Nvidia's been under pressure so far this month. I mean, what's your takeaway on some of the bigger names within tech at this point and their outlook? Because you know what? Adam, if you take a look at it, the earnings have been better than anticipated by every stretch of the imagination at this point. So the earnings are there, but maybe just the moves recently have warranted maybe the pullback in some of these names?
Yeah, valuation doesn't matter until it does. And I think that's a little bit of what you're feeling here is, as the multiples have stretched here, it really just removes the margin of error that these companies can have. And like you said, that they're hitting the earnings expectations, but the reality is the go forward spend and the go forward lookouts have been a little bit less than expected, and so that's what's hurt some of these stocks. With Apple, I think, like you said, it's historically sell the news type of a stock, and I think you have to really look long term here. I think we've had this nice quick run up as the AI stories developed, and now we're probably going to get into this settling of determining, like I said, who are going to really be the winners and losers, and it's kind of rotating through. Obviously, we had the software as a service sell off, several months ago. So it's just kind of moving and working its way through the different segments as investors are just trying to parse through the different names and what's to come. I think it's just so early in this trade that we should expect volatility like this.
Yeah, maybe warranted, as I mentioned, after that parabolic move to the upside. What kind of, strategies prefer?
SpaceX, obviously this mega IPO, and just give us a pulse check on what you're seeing on your platform and conversations that you're having in terms of prepping their portfolios to get allocation into this mega SpaceX IPO.
I would say for the last 6 to 12 months, there have been a lot of investors who wanted exposure to it, and they've been looking at all sorts of vehicles. So venture capital funds, SPVs, different ways to get exposure. But now at the time of the IPO, you can see it in the interest we're already seeing on other retail platforms that have taken allocations. Clearly a lot of interest. The conversations we're having is with the investors who are currently holding SpaceX and how they expect it to perform post-IPO. This is not unique to SpaceX, but if you think about SpaceX, Anthropic, and OpenAI, you look at the growth rates that we've seen in private markets relative to any real public market peer, and the growth rates have had a meaningful difference. Another example of this would be Snowflake's and Databricks as one example. And it's starting to draw the question for investors, is there a structural reason we're seeing faster growth rates in private markets? Because you do have that private capital that every time you need to see a new acquisition or increased CapEx spending, that desire to keep spending and investing in those companies is there. Now, when you see those companies move into public markets, certainly quarterly reporting, daily ability to find liquidity, are you going to see that same ability to keep investing at those dollars because there are enormous dollars needed? Certainly for the biggest hyperscalers, there were some $250 billion worth of capital raises in the last 2 weeks alone. So clearly the liquidity is there, but there is a sense that it's getting more disciplined, and you see that even overnight when it comes to Oracle, and recent weeks when it comes to Broadcom. Yet even those companies have been able to very meaningfully tap equity and debt markets, both public and private for now.
Yeah, and you've been really highlighting this discipline that you are seeing both in public and private markets. And, it's really helpful to hear you talk about that because the private side, we don't really have a lot of access to figure out what's going on there. But I wonder, in terms of going back to SpaceX, this is going to be a major, major distribution event for a lot of private investors out there. So perhaps more volatility near term. But I wonder how you're seeing that distribution, that distributed liquidity getting allocated into markets. Where is it going?
So if I may, speaking about the distributed liquidity, I think we have to take a little bit of a step back and look at the context. We're looking at a venture capital market, both here in Hong Kong and in the US, where DPI, distributions back to investors, have been somewhat weak for years now. So when you think about the investors that have held their capital in these in these companies, they need to some degree, start to sell into public markets. Now, those lockups will be very closely watched by private and public investors. And the degree we see selling pressure is really what's going to be the major determinant. Think also about the timeline here. It's not just SpaceX. Soon you have OpenAI and potentially Anthropic too, both companies potentially in the next couple months. Earnings season. It's not about the IPO moment. The IPOs are clearly getting a lot of interest. It's about what the next 6 months look like, and that's, remember, if you're buying into an IPO, that moment is just one moment. It's the next 6, 12 months return. So you have to really think as an investor what's going to happen within those.
Okay. Let's talk about the big move that's coming towards the end of this week. SpaceX pricing today, listing tomorrow, the largest IPO in history. Rashmi, are you a buyer, and how are you thinking about that valuation?
So yes, SpaceX, a very, very timely topic. Everybody is really excited about this largest ever IPO. And typically as a house, we tend not to invest in IPOs, so we are staying out. But, as far as the valuation is concerned, it is high. It is a fairly demanding valuation. It could be anywhere between 90 to 100 price to sales and 17 times price to book, which is a very, very, expensive multiple for any company. Now, within SpaceX, we have 3 businesses, right? So we have the Starlink business, which is the most profitable business. And then we have the AI business, and we have the space launches business. These 2 businesses are loss-making businesses. And the AI is especially very deeply loss-making. And the CapEx of the AI side of the business is actually exceeding the other 2 parts of the business. So, we like the 2 parts, which is the space launches and the Starlink business. We have to wait and see for a few quarters of reports from the AI side of the business, because this is where the competition is very high, and this is the spender part of the AI, supply chain, so the entire value chain of AI. And we would rather be positioned in the, in the CapEx, the beneficiaries of the CapEx part of the AI value chain, which is where this is a business we are a bit skeptical about, and the valuation definitely we are skeptical about.
Right, in a year of really busy equity issuance as well. Rashmi, you've also said that SpaceX's NASDAQ inclusion could potentially pull some rebalancing flows out of the other tech names. Do you think that's a real risk for the rest of the AI complex? I know you said you were pretty bullish just before, but surely that's maybe one cause for concern.
Yeah, so that is a near-term impact that we can definitely expect as a result of SpaceX IPO. We know that, the SpaceX stock is going to be included in the NASDAQ within 15 days of listing, and as well as in the Russell 1000. And there are plenty of passive as well as active funds which are benchmarked, to these indices. And as a result of that, there will be an inflow of funds towards towards SpaceX at the expense of other tech names. And I think part of this we've already started seeing in the last 4 days or so of market sell-off. We are seeing funds moving out of tech stalwarts. This is a short-term impact which will be there. This is a technical factor, and we see this as a buying opportunities for the names which were running up too high and which people were really waiting to get into as soon as there was a dip.
Exactly. I actually had a friend who is an asset manager who has been waiting for this distribution event for SpaceX, and he was very glad that because he wasn't able to deploy for some of these startups and private companies that he was very interested in, and he's very much waiting for that kind of a liquidity event as well. But do you think that this is initial enough for SpaceX? That's really the timing of this IPO question as well. And I wonder if this is going to be a trend for a lot of private companies, because when you say SpaceX, it's been years in the making, and you say initial public offering, but I don't know in terms of the valuation. Is it really getting in early if you get in on day one?
Thank you for saying that, because that is perhaps the biggest point to make here, that the size of these companies. First of all, those 3 companies, by and large, the investors we speak to believe that this is an exception. not a rule. We are not going to see many companies of this size go public in the near term. There are many other interesting potential IPOs in the next 18 to 24 months that are in the pipeline. However, none of them are this big. And so there is, looking at these IPOs, a greater and greater desire from many investors to get into the growth companies of the future, and SpaceX becomes the poster child. Many people simply have that FOMO. They wish they got in much earlier.
Yeah. And when it comes to private market and private equity, there was some freak out moments because of what's going on with AI disruptions. And you cannot just say, I invest in AI anymore. You got to be more nuanced, and it's so fine-tuned, and it's getting more challenging. There are so many subsets of AI trades. What are you reading in terms of the biggest draw right now? Because I love the expression that you're using in your notes, AI CapEx vigilantes. Where are we at now?
This is one of the biggest dynamics we're watching on the AI CapEx vigilantes. And we were talking about a dynamic with SpaceX and venture capital, even private equity, getting a lot of interest on our platform. The flip side to that is the private credit story, where a lot of people are concerned about AI and how it's going to impact companies before 2022, before the advent of ChatGPT. So it's a double-edged sword, really, if you think about the AI dynamic. The CapEx vigilantes, it's a fairly simple story. What are the few things that will stop the money train here? You have to think about the liquidity conditions. Over in the US, people forget that we have been living in an economy where you've actually had a fair bit of support from the Federal Reserve in terms of bill buying. The first half of the year, you had tax refunds that provided a big lift. Those are some liquidity measures that will start to roll back in the second half of the year. So we're just a little cautious that volatility would increase in the second half of the year because of this. We still think equity markets can be higher. We just think risk appetite can be somewhat compromised because of the liquidity conditions. And the other thing about the AI CapEx spending is from October of 2025, that's really when you start to see leverage enter the system. Now, through the next year, we're going to see how many people are going to be able to make the most of that leverage. It's not bad to borrow right now because conditions are quite cheap, relatively speaking. Spreads are quite tight. You can tap equity and debt markets and really build a war chest worth of funds. But fast forward 12 months from now, will liquidity be that easily available? And so we think it's very sensible to see the fundraisers that we're seeing now, even at the cost of a little bit of near-term volatility.